edition, Mr. Irrelevant. The OG edition, Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from Milwaukee. Hunter Vaughn with you from Madison. No Joshie DiMaggio today. Will Sommers, I think he's still sad about what happened yesterday to the Chicago Bears, but he will join us virtually in about a half an hour. But the OG edition of Mr. Irrelevant, bringing you way back to when we launched this puppy, and it was just Hunter and I, and that's what you get for the next hour or so as we go through everything that's gone on in the last 48, 72 hours. Matt LaFleur is extended, multi-year extension for him, a long-term commitment from the Packers to their head coach who will enter his 8th season in 2026. Right move or wrong move, and what's next? What do you need to see now from Matt LaFleur in the coming days, weeks, and ultimately seasons, as the Packers still trying to position themselves as true championship contenders? So we'll dive into all of that over the course of the next hour. We'll check in on Jeff Hafley's head coaching search and what that means for the Packers as well as they move forward now with Matt LaFleur putting pen to paper, having the extension inked, and now moving forward as the Packers head coach. So we're going to get into all that in just a second. But first off, the birthday boy's the only one that showed up. Hunter Vaughn's birthday today. Happy birthday, Hunter. Thanks for coming to work.
Thank you. I was under the impression we kind of had to come to work today as content teammates. So I don't know what happened with that, but, you know, it is what it is. I'm just a grinder.
Yeah, you are. You are. There's no doubt about that. And as for Joshie, you know, he came in, he did his morning show, and then he texted me. He said, hey, can you work Wildy and Tausch 9 to noon? I got to go pick up my dog. So he's going to pick up his dog. I don't know, man. And then Will went to the Bears game last night, and he had some texts and some things to say on social media. So we'll dive into that when he joins us in about a half an hour. But the happy birthday wishes rolling in on YouTube for Hunter. Keep those coming. Hunter shows up to work on his birthday, even though it is a company holiday. So appreciative of Hunter being here, and fun to do the OG edition of Mr. Relevant. The last time the two of us, just the two of us, did a show, I feel like it's been a long time. So this is fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think back. Oh, geez, it would have been sometime after that Cowboys Packers wild card round, somewhere in that area, because then you went over to Milwaukee.
Yeah, sure, somewhere around there. It's been a few years, so we'll see if we've still got it. Clearly, I don't. So this might be a disaster. Easy for me to say, but all right, let's get into it because this is big news, and we spent the entirety of last week discussing when it'll happen, how it'll happen, what it'll look like. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe the Packers will be looking for a new head coach. But it seemed to me, and I said this even last Sunday, was my gut tells me he'll be back and he'll be extended because he has been a good head coach. He has been a successful head coach. He's won a lot of games, 76 wins in the regular season over the course of his 7 years, over 650 winning percentage over the course of his career in the regular season. And he does get credit for a lot of good things, right? Revitalizing Aaron Rodgers' career and helping him win 2 MVPs, getting to 2 NFC championship games really early and really at the beginning of his tenure, transitioning from the Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love era by making the playoffs and winning a playoff game, right? Malik Willis gets a ton of credit for that. Taking Tucker Kraft to the next level and looking like he'll be a really good tight end in the league for years to come. So he gets credit for a lot of good things that the Packers have been able to do. And, of course, the knock is he hasn't been able to get over the hump. He doesn't have a good postseason record. He's only won 1 playoff game since Aaron Rodgers' departure, and that was 2 years ago now. He's been the 7th seed each of the last 3 years, despite being the youngest team in the league. But only the 7th seed. Hasn't won the NFC North since Aaron Rodgers left Green Bay. So there are fair knocks on LaFleur as well. But where I've landed on the LaFleur extension and the fact that he will be the head coach of the Packers for the foreseeable future is I'm okay with it. I'm good with it. But now it's what's next? How do you level up? How do you get to that next level? I think the extension is the right move, but that doesn't mean me as a fan is satisfied. Right, so I don't want to get those two things twisted. I'm not happy being the 7th seed 3 years in a row. I'm not happy only winning one playoff game in 3 years. I'm not happy with, as I just mentioned, not winning the NFC North since Aaron Rodgers left. But I'm okay with the extension. Stability is important. Continuity is important in the NFL, especially when you are the youngest team in the league, as they've been each of the last 3 years. And Jordan Love, albeit entering his seventh year next year, his seventh season in the NFL, he's still a young quarterback. He's still an up-and-coming guy. He's got 3 years of starting under his belt. This year really seemed to be the consistent year for him that we've been waiting to see. And it seems like he has graduated into franchise quarterback territory in the National Football League. But stability and continuity for him to continue on the trajectory he's on is important to his development. Chaos isn't. I don't view this as complacency from the Packers. And I know some fans feel that way. Extending Matt LaFleur is accepting you'll be a mediocre, middle-of-the-pack team that gets into the playoffs but doesn't advance in the dance. That's not the way I view this. I don't view extending LaFleur as complacent. What would be complacent isn't making moves around him this and next week. And by that, I mean coordinators, assistant coaches, etc. And that's what we'll have to find out over the course of the next week or so to see, okay, is it complacent? I don't think that's what this is, though. I think changes are coming, and we'll get into that and talk about it later. But I think with some news we saw earlier today in Sean McDermott, being fired by Buffalo. He had 2 more seasons than LaFleur, but about the same winning percentage in the regular season, 662 to 664. Sean McDermott in 2 more years than Matt LaFleur, 98-50 in the regular season. LaFleur 76-40-1. So there's some parallels there. 2 coaches that are consistently relevant, consistently in the mix, but just haven't been able to get to a Super Bowl. McDermott 0 for 4 in AFC Championship games, LaFleur 0-2. Worth noting. But now Buffalo, a week or 2 later than everybody, Harbaugh off the market, Stefanski off the market, now throw themselves into this coaching search while also promoting their general manager, which I don't get, but that's neither here nor there. They're behind the 8 ball a little bit. Right? They haven't conducted the interviews. They don't have the upper hand. Now, coaches, that's an attractive job, so coaches will want to go to Buffalo. But Buffalo took the route some fans wanted Green Bay to take, and Green Bay took the route some fans they didn't want them to take. But I view consistency and, complimenting one another in LaFleur and Love as really important pieces to this. And I think that's why the Packers went the direction that they're going. That's how I view this. Now, again, LaFleur's overall body of work is impressive. He's been a really good regular season head coach. Pre-Love, post-Love. He has been. He's been in the playoffs every year. And if we know anything about the Packers, and Diana Rossini had a quote about this, I think it was Saturday morning before the extension was announced, is the Packers aren't dumb. Dumb organizations make rash decisions. They overreact. That's not the Packers. The Packers don't overreact. They don't make crazy decisions. And when it comes to a head coach, you look at the pool and you go, okay, name one guy out there that's a clear upgrade on Matt LaFleur. I don't think Harbaugh is. I don't think Tomlin is. I don't think Stefanski is. I don't think McDaniel is. I don't think any of those names you look at and go, yeah, that's way better than LaFleur. So why even take the risk when obviously changes are needed aside from LaFleur? But he's done a good job. Consistency, continuity. You don't want to be Cleveland. You don't want to be Miami. You don't want to be Tennessee. Stick with a guy that's done good for you. And assume he can do better, which I think he would admit, and everybody around him will admit, he can do better. Good organizations don't make decisions in anger. And that's why the Packers didn't make a decision in anger. Sunday, Ed Policy, the day after the Packers beat the Bears, or rather, the Bears beat the Packers, Ed Policy sat down with Matt LaFleur and says, my intention is to extend you later in the week. And as Rob Demovsky pointed out this morning on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, well, it really didn't take all week. It really only took one day. Here's Demovsky and how the extension went for LaFleur.
The contract actually took one day. They did not start negotiating until Friday morning, and by Friday evening, they had a handshake agreement in place.
There you go. Handshake agreement on Friday and ink on paper Saturday. It's that quick. So there was no leverage being played. There was no shots back and forth. There was no real negotiation. It was one day. And LaFleur, while we probably will never, and maybe, get the true financials of how much he's making a year, how big of a raise he got, or how long of a commitment he got, you kind of eliminate the question marks around that now. But now you've got to figure out what's next. But I do real quick though before we get to what's next. I want to acknowledge why fans are frustrated, and I'm not satisfied with how the Packers have played necessarily, but I don't know that making a head coaching change is the right decision either. I'm not happy with 7 seeds 3 years in a row. I'm not happy with not competing for the division. I'm not. The Packers are supposed to be title town. They're supposed to be a team that is competing for a Super Bowl and making, longer runs. But I understand, especially last week, a meltdown in the postseason where LaFleur had some blame. He couldn't get the offense going in the second half. I think this is more on Love, but it's a LaFleur thing too. Taking a timeout, then taking a delay of game that led to a longer field goal that was ultimately missed by McManus. I get that. But there are bad moments, which LaFleur certainly has plenty of, and then there's a bad coach. I think Matt Eberflus, who was the head coach before Ben Johnson in Chicago, I think he's a bad coach. He consistently was bad at time management. He consistently lost the locker room, the pulse around it, and guys stopped buying into him. I think that's a bad coach. I don't think that's ever been the case with Matt LaFleur. I think he's had bad moments. I think Saturday against Chicago last Saturday was a bad moment. And I don't think that's necessarily, that doesn't equal bad coach. I think he's proven enough over the course of his 7 years. He's a good head coach. He's a good NFL coach. When we say if he was hired or fired, if he was let go from Green Bay, he'd become the number one guy in the coaching cycle. So I want to decipher the difference, because there is a difference between bad coach and bad moments. And, of course, you can only have so many bad moments until it equals bad coach, and I don't think LaFleur's there. So that's where I understand your scrutiny and your anger and your disappointment and your disgust with Matt LaFleur, but I don't think bad moments always equal bad coach. Hunter, go ahead.
But how many bad moments then make you a bad coach? Because, I think about a guy like Andy Reid. He's the gold standard right now of head coaches. And he had bad moments when he was in Philly, but you don't see those bad moments in Kansas City. And how many times do you keep allowing Matt LaFleur to have bad moments before you say, hey, he just is going to continually have these and you can't keep him around because you just never know when they're going to come? So
you're right. It's a completely fair question. And certainly coming off of this year where it felt like there were several, it was not his best year. I don't think anybody's going to advocate for that. I certainly won't. But I think, especially Chicago, he deserves some blame, both of them. I don't know about the one on the December 20th, whatever that was, week 16, I think. I don't know that one's as much a LaFleur thing as it is a Keyshawn Nixon got burned twice, and Romeo Doubs fumbles an onside kick. Again, I thought they were good enough last Saturday to win. McManus couldn't make a kick to save his life. Offensively, though, he deserves some blame. They couldn't do anything their first 4 drives of the second half to really keep the foot on the gas. All gas, no bleep and brake. So, again, I understand the frustration. I just don't agree with the conclusion that he should be fired. And I never really did. I was open to the conversation more so than ever, because it seems like we are kind of at a tipping point for Green Bay as they're in the middle of this all-in window. And as Bill points out on YouTube, he said, wow, real urgency, right, Alex? Remember your show last Friday about how Green Bay needed to show urgency, or is that now down the memory hole? Not down the memory hole at all. They got the deal done, 16 hours after it was announced it was done, 16 hours after we ended that show. My issue with the quote-unquote urgency on Friday was the fact that it took all week to get it done, and now we're still waiting for announcements on assistant coaches, which hopefully for those of you that said this, and I still don't think this is an excuse because he was already under contract, for those of you that viewed it as LaFleur needed a contract extension before he starts making adjustments to his staff, Well, now he's got the extension. Let's get going. Right, we're off the air in 45 minutes. I hope we get a Rich Bisaccia announcement by then. I'm still waiting on that one, and that'd be a year too late. So, those are some of the big critiques on LaFleur. I think my biggest critique of Matt LaFleur is some combination of loyalty being a wonderful human quality. It is not a great head coaching quality, and admit you're not the smartest guy in the room all the time. And I think he's gotten better at the latter. I don't know that he's gotten better at the former in terms of loyalty. Loyalty is like I said, a really good human quality, right? If you're loyal to people, that's always viewed as your greatest strength. But in terms of being an NFL head coach, loyalty can also be your greatest weakness. We can rattle off examples of Matt LaFleur making a coaching change a season too late. Probably none bigger than Joe Barry. But we're already a season too late on Rich Bisaccia. So loyalty has been my biggest critique of Matt LaFleur has been his loyalty to his assistant coaches and his lack of urgency, to use that word, on making changes. He has this pattern, if you will, of waiting a year too long. And that's something we cannot fall into again this offseason. As I mentioned, the all-in window the Packers are in. They believe they have positioned themselves to compete for championships. The Packers do. And when you look at their roster, I think if they stay healthy and they can at least establish a little bit more consistency and grow up a little bit, they should be able to compete for a Super Bowl next year. They should be a top 5 betting favorite as soon as this Super Bowl comes to an end. I would imagine the Packers are top 5 in odds. And last year, despite having a very similar scenario, they won 11 games. They won more games last year in 2024, but it was the same exit. 7th seed, go on the road to Philly, lose, season over. One staff change only. One staff change. They fired the defensive line coach and brought in DeMarcus Covington. And that was the only change to the coaching staff that was made last year. So it's necessary for the Packers, as we talk about complacency, it's necessary for the Packers to make several changes this offseason. And there's obviously a Jeff Hafley portion of this that it may be necessary defensively. But I look at the other two facets of the game. Look at the offensive staff. Look at the special teams staff. I think there's changes needed all over both those rooms. You need guys that have experience, can come in and push back and bring new ideas and help elevate this thing to the next level, because a 7th seed, frankly, ain't going to cut it. It's hard enough to win in the postseason. It's really hard to win 3 games on the road in a row. And I don't think we should ever reasonably expect to see a run again like the Packers did as the 6th seed when they won the Super Bowl in 2010. That was an unbelievable, improbable run by Green Bay. That's not realism. That's not actually how the NFL works. So a big portion of what this extension needs to mean is LaFleur needs to admit his wrongdoings and cut back on his loyalty. He needs to make some changes in terms of that. And that's where this offseason, loyalty needs to make way for results. Loyalty needs to make way for upgrading. Loyalty needs to make way for winning football games. That's what this extension needs to bring with it. And I'm sure that conversation was had with Ed Policy. Because there's nobody, and I know LaFleur, the report last week was he's not coaching for his job in those four quarters in Chicago. And clearly he wasn't. But change is necessary to win in an evolving league. And if the Packers aren't evolving, I fear they're not going to get a whole lot better next year. In a year where they clearly are going to have an opportunity to be a true, powerhouse team. They should be back on top of the NFC North. They should be in the mix in the NFC all year. They should be competing for a 1 seed. With the pieces the Packers have put together in this football puzzle, I mean, they should certainly, the expectation should be competing for championships. So that's where my head's at right now. Hunter, go ahead and jump in here.
I've been thinking about if they're going to make any changes, because I still think it is a if, as much as we want them to make other changes when it comes to the rest of the staff. I really think Matt LaFleur needs to try and find a guy who is like a Madden hardo to help him with the game management. Because that's something I've seen some other coaches talk about of like, oh yeah, I played Madden all the time. I figured out like timeout usage and like how to manage the clock better because of that stuff. Like, I think he needs somebody like that besides Rich Bisaccia. And that's not even the special team aspect of him as a coach. But I think that's his biggest area of weakness as a coach is LaFleur needs somebody that can help him manage the clock better and manage that game overall so he can focus on his strongest aspect, which is the play calling and play design and all of that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say Madden hardo, but I agree with the thesis, which is he needs help in those areas. And I probably haven't played enough Madden in my life to offer my services, but I hear you. I think your point is completely right in terms of the time management, the timeout usage, how to manage a game a little bit better. Not to say he can't manage games, but we've seen enough late game collapses from a Matt LaFleur-led Packers team where it's necessary. And that's why I want somebody that's failed before. I know that sounds crazy, but you're probably not available for work if you haven't failed before. I want people who've been in spots like this around him. I want a veteran offensive coordinator. I want a veteran assistant head coach who's been in situations where they've failed and know how to manage out of these. Now, LaFleur has seen his fair share of failure. He was the quarterbacks coach for the Atlanta Falcons in the biggest Super Bowl collapse of all time. He's participated in several collapses as the head coach of the Packers. But again, bad moments, not bad head coach.
Which of these two for the assistant coaches would you rather have? The type of staff where you could run through the list of names and there's like 4 guys who are like, oh yeah, they'll be a head coach at some point in their career. And you're regularly having to replace like a defensive coordinator or your OC because every couple of years they're going on to become a head coach. Or the type of guys who, like you said, have failed as maybe being a head coach, or your quarterback coach was a failed OC, but they're guys that, for whatever reason, they just kind of click and they stick around for a while.
Yeah, I'd be okay with either, to be honest with you. I think they're both scenarios I'm open to. Now, I'd be surprised if there's a quarterback coach change in Sean Mannion, especially with the way the quarterbacks played this year.
Yeah, and I was just throwing out a position there, by the way. I
hear you. I hear you.
If we get really into it, I like Sean Mannion as a QB coach.
I do too, actually. So I'm with you on that. We don't need to get into it, but I agree with you. And obviously, it was one of their strongest position groups this season. Love had his best season, at least in terms of overall, and Malik Willis was good in situations. So Matthew chimes in. Raheem Morris for defensive coordinator after Hafley takes a head coaching job. Yes, I would love something like that, right? That's a failed head coach he's got a pretty good track record as a DC, obviously enough to get a head coaching job. And he's a good leader, and he's established, he's experienced. Like, that's the type of guy that would fit the bill for what I'm looking for in terms of new coordinators. And it's something we've talked about several times the last week plus. But I think there is a real scenario in which the Packers are looking to replace all 3 coordinators this offseason, special teams, defensive coordinator, and offensive coordinator. I think there's a real scenario in which that's the case, because I think this extension now, to everybody who's anti-LaFleur and everybody who wanted to see LaFleur fired after the season, which you're entitled to your opinion. That's your opinion. That's fine. My opinion is I want to keep him, but other things are necessary. I hear your critique, but now an extension removes excuses. I think we can all agree on that, right? There's no more youngest team in the league excuses. There's no more injuries excuses. There's no more, well, that's a young team melting down excuses. Those are all out the window now. And it certainly adds pressure to LaFleur. Maybe not as much as coaching on the final year of his deal would add pressure, but it adds pressure as, okay, man, you are now the longest tenured active head coach in the NFL that hasn't appeared in a Super Bowl. Kind of a depressing stat, but it's a real one. He is the longest tenured active head coach that hasn't appeared in a Super Bowl with Sean McDermott getting fired. Not great. Not a great stat if you want to feel good about that. So that's where I think all excuses are eliminated, and you have to evolve your staff. It's just a non-negotiable now with the extension. You didn't do it last year. You made one change. You didn't get further. You won last games. You lost in the same round of the playoffs to your arch rival to add insult to injury. Evolution is a necessity in terms of the coaching staff this offseason. So that's why I'm confident in saying that. Now, somebody, I missed who it was because we've got a lot of chat coming in, and I want to get to some of your responses in a minute. But somebody said, I guarantee he doesn't make any changes to his offensive staff. I guarantee the other way. I guarantee he does. Now, that's not necessarily he fires Stenovich or Stenovich goes and takes a job, which I still think is on the table, especially if Hafley gets a job. But I guarantee there's some changes made to the offensive staff. I'd be shocked if Luke Butkus is back as the offensive line coach. And I'd genuinely be surprised if Stenovich was back. Now, I think he takes a job more so than he's fired. And look, LaFleur has to get to a point as the CEO of an organization and in the role in which he's in as the head coach, where he has to have that conversation of, hey, man, go find a job. I don't want to fire you. I don't want bad optics on you. You've been good for me, but I need a change. I need somebody else in here. It can be that simple. And Stenovich wants to call plays. He would have been Seattle's offensive coordinator this year had Clint Kubiak not melted the walls down impressively with his interview in Seattle. So Stenovich has already been looking for opportunities to play call. Let's just hope this is the offseason in which that happens so Matt LaFleur can then go fill that void. And it better not be via internal promotion because we know how that's worked out in the past. So I would guess there is still a very good chance all three coordinators are open. Now, the Bisaccia part is a fascinating one, and I see a couple of different people chiming in on that. I thought this was a really interesting comment on the ESPN Madison YouTube channel from Packer Doug, who's chiming in. Good to see you, Doug. Doug says, Bisaccia is the Josh Myers of our assistant coaches. Everything on the field looks bad, but everyone in the locker room and staff thinks he's a great guy and an asset. It's something I don't understand, and I'm with Doug on that. I don't get it either. But for years and years, we're couch GMs, we're couch gurus, we're fanatics, right? Like if we can point out that's an issue, and it's never the same issue on special teams. This year it was the returning game. What the hell are we doing? As you see, McCole Hardman have a pretty nice return for Buffalo on Saturday. It's gotten to the point of inexcusable. So I can't advocate for Rich Bisaccia, but I've also been advocating for his firing for over a year. So I guess I'll live to see another day on that one.
Will
your final thought? No, go ahead. Yeah, my stance.
Would your stance on LaFleur coming back at all change if, hypothetically, they don't make a single change to the staff? And they're like, you know what? We're going to run it back. This is how we feel. We feel good about it. And he's just like, I'm gonna stick where I'm at. Because I feel like it almost has to change then about feeling good about the Packers bringing him back if he doesn't see any issues with everything.
Yeah, so I agree. I still think he's a good head coach, but I don't think he's getting over the hump next year if that's the case. And I would be very disappointed. The only thing that implies, though, is that Hafley's back, and that's the one I'd be totally okay with. But if Bisaccia and Stenovich are both back as the other two coordinators, I think that's a failure, and that's something we've talked about a lot the last week. I think that would be a disappointment and also just kind of a slap in the face to fans and the organization and the players, right? Like, I'm not saying they don't like their coaches, but you have to evolve in the NFL. And if for 2 off seasons in a row they decide there's no evolution needed from the coaching staff, then we have to question why he was extended. But I'd also be shocked if that's the case. Fool me once, shame on you. Yeah. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I was fooled last year, so maybe I'll get fooled again. But we'll see.
I ask that basically operating under the assumption that Hafley's going to be a head coach somewhere. Like, anybody that has tweeted about him doing interviews, it has seemed like he's one of the guys that is the leader for multiple teams. I'm assuming he's going to be a head coach. So it's kind of you have to then because you have a new DC. They're going to bring in their own staff. Like, I'm specifically talking special teams and offense. Just want to make that clear in case anybody watching or listening back to this is confused on why we're focusing on that side of it, because Hafley's gone. I'd be shocked if he's just like, I'm going to come back and be a DC.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's going to get that Miami job. I think he's got to be the front runner. It certainly seems like he is. With the Packers connections and with them making a change at quarterback, he can kind of handpick his coordinator then, and it will be a new quarterback in Miami. So I would guess But again, I think if Hafley does land that job, I think Stenavich immediately then becomes the favorite to be the OC and the play caller. So then you're stealing some of the assets in Green Bay, and that makes Matt LaFleur's job a little bit easier. But I hope we don't view that as, oh, well, he was too scared to fire anybody. So that's, but we'll see. All right, couple of things. Will Sommers going to join us in 5 minutes to talk about his sadness post-Bears loss. I hope everybody's viewing it similarly to me in terms of the extension is not complacency, it's consistency, but it doesn't like lock things in around him. I actually think it opens things up. And the Hafley piece is an important one because you're going to have to make a change more than likely as Hunter and I are operating under defensively. And that's more opportunity to get fresh ideas in the building. And I see a lot of people saying stuff about Raheem Morris. That's where my head goes. So that's how I've wrapped my head around it the last 48 hours. That's where I land. I don't think it's panic mode. I think it's evolution. And I think the easy part was the extension. That's what I'm operating under. And maybe it's taken me a half an hour to spell it out this easily. But I view the extension as the easy part, and the hard part starts now. And I said that last week too, but any day on something, right? Even if it's just like they fired the offensive line coach. Okay, that shows me there's proof of life at 1265. People are actually working in the offseason. People are looking to make changes. That's what I would like to see, even if it's something that's simple. But we'll see. We'll get back to the LaFleur extension before we wrap up the show. But oh boy, let's see what kind of mood he's in. It is a Monday, which we typically do Will's weekend in review. We're not going to do it that format today, but we are going to welcome in Will Sommers now, who joins us from Illinois, less than 24 hours removed from the Bears falling to the Rams in overtime. Caleb Williams, both a little bit exceptional, but also very bad at moments, and very Favre-esque almost. Like, oh my God, how did he do that? But oh my God, why did he do that? Will Sommers joins us now on Mr. Irrelevant from Illinois. Hello, William. How we doing? Oh, you look horrible.
I'm very sad. My voice is lost. It was a heartbreaking loss. I see people on Twitter celebrating the season, saying how good it was. I can't get over it. It was right there. The 3-and-out in overtime, and you get the ball. You get that fourth down converted by Caleb, and then you just throw a horrible interception. We sat in our seats for about 30 minutes after the game ended. No words were said. Just sitting up in the 400s. We had to get, the security had to come and tell us to leave. And then I got home, laid on the ground, didn't take off any of the snow pants. It was not cold enough is why we lost. It was too warm. It really wasn't that cold. And I just rewatched the entire game, and then I went to bed. It was a rough day, which sucks because the Caleb throw in person was awesome.
I do want to talk about that play in a moment. But I have a couple other things to talk to you about. I'm sad. I'm angry. Everything hurts was your tweet last night. Yes. And then we got a text from you. That said, I've legitimately ended 6 friendships. What's that about?
That may have been an overreaction, but my phone died after the game. So when I got home like an hour later, I charged it and just had like a million texts from Packers fans and everyone just being really mean to me, and I fought back. But yeah, I was being mean, a little meaner than I would have liked.
I got a screenshot from somebody you may know. It was from my girlfriend.
Oh,
she responded to your Instagram story. She said, "R.I.P. The Bears still suck," and she sent you a heart. So that was a supportive move by her, I assume. You responded, "Shut the bleep up," to my girlfriend.
Ooh.
To be fair, I didn't see the heart. I was rifling through all the messages that I was getting from people being mean. I overreacted a little bit to her. I do apologize. I'd like to go on the record and say I was sorry. Are you mad at me?
Way to be the bigger person. Actually, here's the thing. I think I was Team Will on that one.
Like, if it came today, I would have been like, thank you, like, good game, whatever. But just in the moment, I was so sad. I just can't. I couldn't believe it.
When's the moment you realized it was over?
It was the interception, and then I think like the next play, it was like Colby Parkinson or something had like a 20-yard gain. It was like,
Yeah.
I mean, you just felt the life was sucked out of the building. It was so quiet after the field goal. It honestly took until the players ran on the field for me to realize that it was actually over. Like once the playing field was no longer reserved for the 22 members of the both teams, that was when it kicked in. Like even after the field goal, I was like, this doesn't feel real. It was so like I've never been in a building that quiet before.
Was the Caleb throw where he ran 30 yards backwards and threw a touchdown, was that a good play or a bad play?
I think it was both because I think specifically from him, we've seen that play from him so many times where he kind of just runs away and then throws it. I always talk about it too. He's the best guy at throwing the ball away in the NFL. Like he just gets rid of it so far out of the back of the end zone or to the sidelines. And it really just looked like one of those plays. And on fourth down or whatever it was, we were like, oh, season over. Like he literally was not facing Cole Kmet when he released the ball almost. And like as the ball was floating in the air, like it almost felt like time stopped at Soldier Field. And you kind of saw the defender wasn't paying attention and Cole Kmet snuck. It was incredible. It was the loudest moment I've ever heard in my entire life. It was crazy. But yeah, I agree. It was both a horrible play to just kind of, I mean, the play was kind of blown up. The Rams D-line was pretty good the entire night, and they just chased him back and then got lucky. But that at that moment, I was like, there's no way we lose. Like, if that just happened, like, the cards are all in our favor. Like, there's no way.
I think I've landed on bad play, good moment. I mean, that was an inexperienced move to run, 30 yards backwards.
And ultimately, it's probably going to be like the Marcus Page three-pointer in the Villanova national championship game against North Carolina, where he hits an insane shot, but the moment gets overshadowed due to the loss. So
it'll just be forgotten. You're not wrong about that. How do we land on Caleb Williams after season 2?
Phenomenal. Still so much to improve on, which is like almost the exciting thing is that all you accomplish all this in year 2, year 1 with Ben. And I mean, like you said, at times he hasn't been great. So I'm just excited for what he's going to be like when he gets better in year 2 with Caleb or Ben.
Jalen chimes in, the meltdowns from Chicago fans have been glorious. I didn't say it. It was Jalen, not me, just for the record.
I mean, I still feel like someone took my heart out of my chest. It felt like we had won the game when we forced the 3-and-out in overtime. I was like, there's no way that just happened.
Do you have any statement on the fact that the Bears are now 0-2 the last 2 playoff games when Jim Cornelison sings the national anthem?
Yeah, I don't know if we can have him back, honestly, but it was incredible. I saw videos of people like completely like miles away from the stadium, and you could hear it. It was so loud in there. See that video?
They showed it on TV. They showed the anthem, and he does a phenomenal job. That might have been one of the, if not the loudest moment of the game, maybe outside of that Caleb touchdown.
I was ready to fight someone. After I heard it, I was like, I will fight anybody that comes up to me right now. I was so fired up. It was an awesome moment.
You didn't get into any physical interactions, right?
No, I did not. I was everyone there weren't a lot of Rams fans, and I mean, if they were all fairly respectful. But everyone was just so sad, and it was cold and it was wet everywhere. So everyone was just like, get me the hell home after the game. No one, trust me, the last thing anyone wanted to do was fight each other.
Okay. Very good.
We've delayed
I
it
don't
too
really
long.
have a whole lot else for you.
No, we've delayed it too long. We got to talk about the interception. Like, DJ Moore gave up on that play. The last one.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah,
it is crazy because usually I would say you can't blame. Like, Caleb has had a lot of interceptions in the postseason. Obviously, I think he had 5 in 2 games, but there was a good amount of them that were on the wide receivers. And DJ Moore, while he was so clutch this year, so good in so many different moments. That was just such a biggest play of the season, biggest moment of the season, and you just don't have any effort. Like, when you watch the tape, I think that he was supposed to run underneath the other defender into that little pocket of space right there and just didn't. And I mean, when you're a quarterback in the NFL, like you have to anticipate that stuff so much. So I mean, that was the worst part is going back and looking at it. Like it was just a lack of effort. Like he at least could have broken it up if he was running fully.
I feel like I've been fairly respectful for this. So pat on the back to me.
Pat on the back to you. Thank you.
I'm going to be honest.
People online.
This is a little disappointing because after the wild card loss for the Cowboys, I got basically the entire show was let's make fun of Hunter crashing out over that loss, and then Strouf's being respectful to you, Will. So yeah, I'm a little jealous right now.
Hunter, hold on. First off, I was always respectful to you. Number two, you were angry because you're a Cowboys fan. Will just went on a roller coaster ride of a season he wasn't anticipating, and it seems like he's just depressed. He doesn't seem angry. He seems sad. He seems beaten down. He's like a sad puppy. I don't want to kick the man while he's down. Or if he was angry and if he came on here yelling, then I'd yell back at him. But that's not the approach he took. I think you two just took different approaches, and that's why I've handled these differently.
Okay.
And also, the Bears eliminated the Packers, so if I was to be disrespectful, he could just hold that one over me.
That's the big detail there, yes. But I feel like I'm so sad. I'm like a different person than who I was yet. Like I've taken like 5 showers today just to like try to, restart my day 5 different times, and I just feel so sad after all of them. So
I don't even know what to say anymore. I love that you have lived ballless life mantra to the fullest.
I am glad Josh DiMaggio is not here today. I will say that because I know he would not be as respectful and nice.
Yeah, if I had a cackle to his level, I'd be using it, but I don't, so I'm not going to cackle at you. I just wanted to see how you were doing on this day after. You don't sound as bad as I expected. I figured you'd have even less of a voice.
No, I actually did wake up pretty early, so I've been up for a while. But like last night, it was just. Like my mom, I was talking to her and I was so sad, and she's like, I don't think you're allowed to go to any more games because of how like angry and sad and just like some of the things I was saying while I was laying on the ground, getting so upset watching the game back. She's like, I don't know if we should
laying on the ground.
Games. Oh yeah, I
laying on the ground.
Like I laid on the ground in my snow pants. Like I had 5 layers on top and bottom, and I was just laying in all my layers, sweating my ass off. I rewatched the entire game. Watched all of the press conferences, all the player locker room audio in my, like, all layered up, just laying on the ground, eating Ritz crackers.
I'm glad you've handled this well.
Yeah, this feels really good to talk about it, though, because no one's home either because it's MLK Day, so I've just been stewing with my thoughts all day, talking to my friends, like, just about how disappointing it was.
Well, that's going to be it for free therapy. Will Sommers on Mr. Relevant. He returns for the full show on Wednesday. Feel better.
Thank you. Did you were you rooting for the Bears a little bit there?
Hunter, end the call. Hunter, end the call. End the call, Hunter. End the call. He knows the answer. I'm a Rams guy. I want to see Devontae win a ring. That's what I've landed on. I actually, and I didn't mention this at the start of the show. So there's a Bills bar in Milwaukee that I went to on Saturday, and my boss at ESPN Milwaukee and Hunter, obviously, you know him well, Brian D. He's a Bills fan, and so he invited us out, a couple of us out, and he goes, "Hey, I'll give you some Bills gear if you want to come watch the game with me. Sit through this with me." And the atmosphere is electric. But there's like hundreds of Bills fans in Milwaukee, which I did not realize. So I decided to jump on the Bills bandwagon. And I was kind of rooting for Bills Rams. And now obviously the Bills lost in epic referee fashion to Denver on Saturday.
Which, okay, the referee thing, I don't understand how the NFL can say that one is an interception and then the same play happens in the Bears game. And they're like, nope. Like, I don't understand the NFL.
I hear you. I don't get it. We still, it's been years and decades of, how many years ago was the Des Bryant, what is a catch?
It was
non-catch.
It was 10 years ago.
2013 was that?
No, that was 16. That was the 16 playoffs.
Okay.
Yep. That's been a decade. So
9 years ago. And we're still talking about what is a catch. We're just still trying to define it. And Saturday, another example of that, but also like the PI calls in overtime were bad against Buffalo. I felt like they got screwed by the refs in that game. Now, I think Denver probably ultimately wins either way, but I don't know that was an interception. So I don't know. And I'm a Brandon Cooks guy. I really like in that stat of him having the most receptions in postseason history without a touchdown. Like I was kind of rooting for him. But Buffalo falls, so I'm off the Bills bandwagon because their season's over. I think I've hopped on the Rams, even though they won it a few years ago. I think two things happen, right? I think if Stafford, and it seems like he probably will, win MVP, and he wins another Super Bowl, I think that completely solidifies his Hall of Fame status, which he's probably already a Hall of Famer, but I don't know that he's first ballot. If he wins a second Super Bowl and an MVP in the same year, I think that solidifies his Hall of Fame status. The other thing, I think it solidifies Devontae Adams' Hall of Fame status, which again, I think that's another guy who's a Hall of Famer. But if he wins a Super Bowl in a couple of weeks, I think Devontae's case is even stronger, despite the fact he was the best receiver in football for several seasons and still has, he's still phenomenal and still a really big piece of that Rams team. So I think I'm on the Rams bandwagon with 4 teams left. You can't really let's just break it down. And Hunter, I'll ask you who you're rooting for, but I don't think you can jump on the Patriots bandwagon. Right? They've suffered for 3 years.
Yeah, not long enough.
They're in a great position now next week to beat a backup quarterback to get to the Super Bowl. Denver, kind of a fun story, but does anybody want to root for Sean Payton? Like, that's the part I struggle with. The Jarrett Stidham thing, I understand if somebody would root for Jarrett Stidham, but I don't think you can root for Sean Payton. Seattle, they're fun. They're really good. I think they probably have the best chance to win the Super Bowl after what we saw this weekend. But Mike McDonald, I don't really know that much about him. He's a second-year coach. Sam Darnold, it's a fun story, but Seattle's won a Super Bowl in the last 10, 12 years. But and I know the Rams won it a few years ago, but I think that's where my rooting interest easily goes to. And then there's obviously the Devontae Adams factor, so that's why I'm on the Rams bandwagon. But I guess I'd be curious from your perspective.
See, I've been very pro Seahawks since the Sean Alexander years. That's just always been a team.
I had a Sean Alexander jersey.
Yeah, he was awesome. And then Russell Wilson going there because I was so in on the Badgers when he was there. So I have a Russell Wilson Seahawks jersey. So I've been in on the Seahawks. That's the team I want as soon as the Cowboys were eliminated. For me, I did figure out though, after watching that Bills Broncos game, I figured out the path for Jarrett Stidham to win this game against New England. And it's just do the same thing that Bo Nix was, and you throw just absolute lame duck underthrow passes beyond 15 yards, and your receivers have to go back for the ball, and then the DBs will just run into him, and you'll get PIs, and you just move down the field with that. It's unbeatable. This is like taking Bo Jackson and Tecmo Bowl or the corner 3 on NBA Jam. You can't stop
good Family Guy reference by you, yeah. Yeah,
or just a standard pop culture, but okay.
Yeah, that's true too. You're going to run RJ Harvey into the ground and just hope that works. But we'll see. I think the other part of the Broncos thing of maybe why you could make a case for them is Quinn Miners, who went to UW Whitewater, the all pro guard for them. It'd be really cool for his story, right? D3 guy who's gotten paid now and has become a great offensive lineman. That could be a rootable story, but anyway, I just think the Rams are the easiest one to root for.
He went to my school, UW Oshkosh's biggest football rival, so That's just weird. That'd be like cheering for a Gopher if you went to UW.
But in the NFL, but hold on. It's the NFL now. We're past the rivalry stage. He's made it big time out of the WIAC. Yeah, I feel like that's rootable.
It is a little bit. It's just gross to be I'm cheering for a guy from Whitewater. It's just ill. Yeah. It was different when it was Pierre Garçon when he wasn't with Washington because he was a D3 guy, even though it was Mount Union. But I don't know. I just don't like Whitewater.
I hear that. I hear that in your voice. That's fair enough.
They also robbed
enough.
Oshkosh of making it to the semifinals when I was there, and then they were using. It was I've not.
I knew we were somehow going to stumble into bad memories. Yeah.
Oh, it was. They got a touchdown that they then used the clip of it in one of their commercials for like 5 years, and you can clearly see the ball hitting the turf. But because in the quarterfinals they don't have like TV broadcasts, there's no replay on it, so it shouldn't have counted, and it still did. And then they won by a touchdown against Oshkosh, and I still have not let it go.
Levi chimes in. I don't like Whitewater either, Hunter. Dr. Denver Dan says no Wisconsin connection can get me to root for Sean Payton, despite the fact he lives in Denver. I like that. Matthew says get Devontae that ring. Mr. 36 chimes in. NFL equals the WWE. I don't know what he means by that part, but then this is Bears are 2 years ago Lions and last year's Washington. Get the fans in the city excited again so they tune in. Then just let them play ball. Same as when they play in foreign countries. So I think what he's saying is Chicago's going to underperform next year, which I hope he's right. All right, let's get to what we missed and some final thoughts on as we get ready for conference championship weekend, and some final thoughts on the LaFleur extension and what's to come this week. I do have a story for you, and I need your opinion on it, though.
Okay. These can go one of two ways with you.
It's nothing dirty. Don't worry. So I don't do this super often. But if I have a busy day or if I have stuff to do around the house, sometimes I will place an order for delivery for groceries. And yesterday I only needed a few things. I needed 14 things in total, right? So like just some staples. I needed bread, I needed cheese, I needed tortillas, I needed milk, like pretty basic stuff. And so I placed an order for delivery. And no free ads, but my DoorDash driver was at the store, and when they do grocery shopping, they tell you what's going on. So, like if they've found this item, and I got a notification that said your driver has found 8 of 14 items, and I said, okay, that's good, but it's been a while. And then I looked on the map, and my driver had left the store. Okay. 8 of 14 items, and it still said shopping in progress. Driver's left the store, and I said, that's odd. And like 3 minutes later, I get a text from the driver, and it says, they don't have things you need, just cancel me. And I said, what? And I looked at the items that were missing. So 8 of 14 items were found, and those were actually more of the obscure items. Right? Like I needed chicken stock concentrate. Not chicken stock, but chicken stock concentrate, and that was located. And what were some other weird items I had in there? Like I had a half pound of steak was in there, right? So like some obscure items that, okay, sure, that reasonably could be out. The items that were missing, Hunter, that had not been found were the following. Shredded cheddar cheese, tortillas, a half loaf of white bread, and milk, and white milk.
So
and eggs and 12 eggs. Those were the 5 items missing.
Literally the most basic things that you would expect every grocery store in the world to have. Correct.
So then I get a phone call from the DoorDash driver after I said I'm not going to cancel because I don't get a refund. I would only get your tip back, and for grocery deliveries I tip like $10. So I think it was like $9 or $10. And it said, yeah, you're not going to get your money back. And so I tried to contact DoorDash support. Well, of course, it's all AI, so they don't understand what I'm doing. So I get a phone call from the DoorDash driver. Please cancel me. Please cancel me. I go, what do you mean? Well, they don't have your items. And I said, the items that you're missing are like bread and eggs. You're telling me a grocery store doesn't have what a grocery store has a lot of? And she said, well, no, they don't have a ton of your items. And I said, are you sure? And she said, yeah, you just cancel me. Just cancel me. She kept saying, just cancel me. So I call finally DoorDash support and I get a hold of somebody. And the woman on the other line says to me, yeah, it looks like your DoorDash driver just quit being a DoorDash driver in the middle of your order. And I go, what do you mean? And they go, yeah, it looks like she just quit. And I said, and so I thought to myself, did shredded cheese send this woman over the top?
You ruined someone's job.
Yeah, apparently. So the woman on support, she's like, yes, I'm gonna accelerate your order to the next available driver. And there was a driver right there, and they were awesome. And lo and behold, all 14 items available at the grocery store, same store, and I got half of it off. So I actually only paid for about half the groceries. So despite the fact it took like 2.5 hours longer than it should have, I did get my groceries half off, and really fast service from that part forward. But yeah. So, very strange, but I think me ordering groceries made somebody quit their job yesterday.
Which is, like, they must have not been a DoorDash driver for very long. Because, like, you know what you're getting yourself into when you decide that this is what you want to do. You're going to have to go and get some weird food orders. You're going to have to go pick up some weird grocery orders. Like, it's not like you had anything, unless you're just not being honest here, anything that's, like, crazy out there, like, oh, what is this weirdo doing? Like, I don't understand. This could get me going on a rant here of, like, the level of, oh, I just don't want to put in the work, so I'm just not going to, and then try and bully you into not doing it.
Well, lying about it was the most absurd part, and it was like, it was seriously the most staple items. It was bread, eggs, cheese, and I was like, what do you mean they don't have bread? And somebody chimes in, a half loaf is interesting. Yeah, it's my favorite, like, quote unquote struggle meal, but I still make it all the time. It's just ham, Swiss, and Thousand Island dressing, and like you just make it like a grilled cheese. Okay. Ham and Swiss. It's like a ham and Swiss sandwich, and then I put Thousand Island dressing on it. And I just grill it.
You lost me at the Thousand Island. Can't do Thousand Island. It's disgusting.
Oh, dude, it's really good. I love Thousand Island. It's really good. But it's like what my mom made growing up when I was sick
it's your
or whatever.
comfort meal. Yeah.
It's like a comfort / struggle meal. It's also cheap, right? It's just like deli meat and cheese. But I only get a half loaf because I never use the entire loaf if I get a full loaf, because, bread only lasts for however long, like 2 weeks. So, I just always do a half loaf. My girlfriend doesn't eat a lot of like sandwiches, so I'm pretty much the only one that eats the bread. So,
okay, very random thought.
I agree. I typically do get my own groceries. But there are moments, and yesterday happened to be one of them, where I had like 33 things going on, and it was easier, so I wanted to just pay for it. It's more expensive that way, I get it. But, so Dark City, not a fan of me ordering my groceries, but I pay, that's fine. So anyway, there's that story. Also what we missed, NBA All-Star starters have been announced.
Oh, okay. Because I had a random thought. I needed to know if anyone else has had this pop up on their TikTok feed. Have you gotten any of the like they're AI generated videos, but it's different like food items, and like they're all like an angry face, and it's like, you don't cook me this way. Like,
I have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been getting a ton of that this weekend, and I'm here for it. They're great. And I absolutely love it. No idea what I did to get that on that side of TikTok, but it's been great. And this made me think of that.
Did it help your cooking? Or have you not taken the tips?
The cooking ones a lot of them have been ones that I know because I can cook. The good ones have been like have like warm water at the start of your day because it helps your metabolism. Or like if you have an upset stomach, ginger and things like that.
Huh. Fascinating. I don't know if you hear the buzzing behind me. I don't know what that is, but anyway, sounds like somebody's drilling something near me. NBA All-Star starters announced: Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Kate Cunningham, Jaylen Brown, and Giannis Antetokounmpo are your Eastern Conference All-Star starters. That's 10 straight starts for Giannis. And on the Western side, listen to the names. You'll notice one missing: Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, Stephen Curry, Nikola Jokic, and Victor Wembanyama. Meaning LeBron James, not an all-star starter this go around, which would be, I would assume, probably the first time in his career he's not an all-star starter. So that's interesting. But there you have it. There are your all-star starters just announced as the Bucks currently playing on MLK Day. And winning at halftime. So there you go. All right. Well, that will do it for us. Good talk about the LaFleur contract extension. We'll get Joshy's perspective on it on Wednesday, and hopefully some more news to react to in terms of Packers assistants. Will Jeff Hafley be a head coach by the time we talk on Wednesday? Will there be other changes made at 1265? And continue to look ahead into the rest of the offseason for the Packers is now we're going to get into decision territory in terms of players, in terms of coaches, and this is a really fascinating time of year as the Packers try to gear up and really take things to this next level and compete for a Super Bowl in 2026. All right, good OG Irrelevant episode. Big thanks to the birthday boy Hunter for coming into work today. Thanks to Will for jumping on for a few minutes and sharing his sadness with us, and I think it was actually beneficial for him. It seemed almost therapeutic, but kind of fun to laugh at him. Fun to laugh at him there. Everybody's back with us Wednesday. Looking forward to talking to you then, beginning at 12:30 Central, ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube, and of course the podcast audio available wherever you get your podcasts. That's Apple Podcasts, which is what I use. It's Spotify Podcasts, what Hunter uses, and the ESPN Wisconsin app. If you haven't downloaded that, you can customize it too. You can drag Mr. Irrelevant all the way to the top of the feed so you never miss a single episode, our bonus episodes, and our Monday, Wednesday, Friday episodes that are dropped in that feed throughout the week. Looking forward to talking to you on Wednesday. Have a good couple of days. We'll talk to you then. Peace.